public high school in North Carolina, and I hated school. I hated high school so much, and there was one English teacher that just changed it all for me and kept me sane in school, and she introduced me to like really digging into Shakespeare. My grandmother first like read me Shakespeare when I was a kid.
I read Romeo and Juliet, of course, in high school, English, freshman English, but I guarantee you I did not appreciate it for what it was then as I do now.
I don't know if I was ever forced to sit down and read Romeo and Juliet. I think the first time, I got lucky. I got to see it before I had read it, so I didn't know how it ended.
Yeah, I first read Romeo and Juliet in my 8th grade English class with LaToya Dixon, my English teacher, who's now a good friend of mine. And we did a reading out loud in class, and I got cast as Romeo. And then my real first experience with Shakespeare was when I went to my boarding school in South Carolina, and our introduction to Shakespeare and how the language works was the first Romeo Benvolio scene.
I mean, it is, in many ways, a more traditional Romeo and Juliet because, I mean, classically in Shakespeare's company, The King's Men, you would have an all-male cast. So it is more traditional in that facet of it, but it's obviously a very non-traditional piece in that it examines very much the nature of love and the nature of how art can change people and sort of just the way that poetry and creativity and learning and sort of breaking the boundaries of what would be sort of a very structured lifestyle, how that can affect kids, you know. So it really attacks a lot of different angles of the human experience, which is nice.
A lot of the ways that we think about human nature and critically think about human nature came from Shakespeare. The invention of the human and the way that we think about it critically.
You know, we're still telling the story of Romeo and Juliet, and it just takes place in a Catholic school with 4 boys. So it's the same idea, it's the same struggles, it's the same tension, it's the same hot-blooded nature. There's all the comedy and then the tragedy of how a relationship works. So it's not too different.
The whole forbidden love thing, the star-crossed lovers, it's bringing that closer to home by making them students, and they're able to experience things that otherwise they didn't think they could or never thought they were allowed to experience, and they learn something about themselves in that. And ultimately, it's about the students.